guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to show you how to paint your own pots for your herbs. Very Pinterest-esque style. It's super cute and really affordable. I got all my supplies from the Dollar Tree, minus the paints. I had those at my house. But I did see that you can purchase acrylic paints at the Dollar Tree. So you can get it all there. The Dollar Tree has everything. But yeah, if you want to see how I did it, stay tuned. Now that I have all my supplies laid out in a very aesthetically pleasing way, I first start off by removing the plastic wrapping off of the pots. Then, after choosing which herb I wanted to draw first, I decided to use the image along the front, along with a couple Google images, to draw out a basic outline of what the plant will look like. One thing that I wanted to make sure that I put into my painting of the dill is to include the yellow flowers that end up blooming on a dill plant. They're so beautiful, and I really wanted to incorporate that into my painting. So here I am just drawing out the basic lines and stems of where the flowers are going to be placed, but I'm going to wait to focus on the detail of the yellow flowers when I do the painting itself. Now that I finished drawing out the outline for the plant, I'm going to focus on writing the word dill. I'm just doing it in lowercase lettering and just making sure I like how it looks on there. With the dill outline done, time to focus on the cilantro. For this one thing that I wanted to really focus on was actually the shape of the leaves. If you look at the leaves of a cilantro plant, one thing you'll notice is that there's actually 3 branches that kind of branch off on the leaves, and they are kind of rough in texture, like the edges are slightly jagged. So I wanted to make sure that I incorporated this into my drawing. I will have to say, out of all 3 pots, the drawing for the cilantro plant took me the longest to try and perfect how those leaves kind of looked, because I don't know, I was struggling and it was a thing, but overall I was really happy with how it all turned out. Here you can see a better look up close of the edges of the leaves, and then also how one leaf kind of branches off to 3 parts. Now for this time, when I was writing the word cilantro, I knew where I wanted the word to end, but not exactly where it needed to start. So that's why I'm actually writing it backwards. And trust me, it was a struggle for me trying to make sure, am I spelling cilantro correctly? Because I'm a horrible speller. So I definitely was referring to the package of seeds for reference. And oh, by the way, if anyone was wondering, I'm writing in a lowercase serif font. With the cilantro complete, time to move on to the basil. I feel like the drawing for the basil came out a lot quicker and a lot easier than the one for the cilantro, just mainly because the leaf shape of the basil is pretty stereotypical, like just nice rounded with a little bit of indentation in the center with a little branching. So this one I finished up pretty quickly. Here I just added little basil leaves just so that gives the picture more dimension with different size leaves, to make it seem like, oh, it's a plant that's growing and has, is in stages in its life and in its growth, like we all are. But of course, right afterwards, I decided, Angies. And I decided, yeah, no, those leaves gotta go. And so I redid the leaves and redrew them into what I assumed was my better vision for how this plant was gonna look. I don't know. I filmed this a while ago, so I'm not sure what I was really thinking at the time. But, here's some more leaves. Now we're moving on to writing the word basil. I did the exact same thing like I did with the cilantro, and I wrote it backwards. Trust me when I tell you this. It will save you a ton of heartache, tears, and pain if you just write it backwards, because then you're not stressing to see, is my letters gonna fit? You're not gonna be like, ooh, I wrote the whole word and now the last letter is running into my drawing and I have to erase the whole thing and I'm dying a little bit in the inside. I'm not saying this from personal experience at all, by the way. With the basil drawing complete, it's time for us to move on to painting. All the acrylic paints, I used a brand called Liquitex Basics. I also used a slow dry blending gel in the top left hand corner. This will help with thinning the acrylic paints while maintaining the glossy shine. With any painting, you first need to wet your brush. That's important. Right here, I'm dipping into the medium green shade and using that as the base for along the stem. After that, I picked up a thin tip paintbrush and then I'm dipping into the dark green shade. By using multiple colors of green along the stem, it gives the picture more dimension. For the flowers of the plant, I'm just dipping into a little bit of that mixing medium and the light yellow shade and just creating little blotching sort of motions with my paintbrush. You don't have to be too precise. You can always build up on it, so I would recommend going slow and taking your time. So now with that small paintbrush, I want to add a little bit of highlight colors by dipping into that light shade. You want to go pretty light-handed on light colors because it can often overpower your painting. You can kind of see it when a little heavy-handed on the light color here. So that's why I'm taking a little bit of that darker shade to try and balance out the stem. And the brilliant thing about painting is you can always decide to go back and add more. Here, I was looking at my flowers and I didn't feel like they were that vibrant of a yellow that I was looking for. So that's why I'm layering on more of that light yellow color. For a last minute change in the design, I decided I wanted to put more branches onto the dill plant. That is something that you'll see on a normal dill plant, little green little stems and leaves. So I wanted to make sure I incorporated it on my pot. Now that I'm satisfied with the way the stem looks, I decided to jump into some of that darker orange shade and placing that along the centers of each of the flowers, close to where they meet the branching parts of the stem, just because it adds a little bit more character to the painting. Now we made it to the part where finally painting the word dill. You'll see here I started using that really light blue shade, but as I finished painting this, that after I've done that, personally, for my preference, it was a little too light. I would have maybe preferred to go a little bit more of a brighter blue shade or mix it in with a little bit of a brighter blue shade, but you'll see in a minute where I end up going back and I'll pick out a different paint, a darker blue, and then I'll paint that on top. For anyone who was wondering, the paint that I ended up using is called Ultramarine Blue. With using this darker color, one thing that I like is that the letters just stand out much better than when it was just the lighter color. You'll kind of see it kind of came out a little bit more messier than I would have preferred, but it's still pretty cute, so I like it. Now with painting this plant, what I ended up doing is I first started off with the light green color and I focused it in the center along the stem. After that, I took the light green color and I slowly started moving it further outward on the leaves. But I let it thin out to kind of give it a nice thin coating of color to begin with. Next, I took the dark green color and I focused this along the perimeter of the plant. I wanted the most outer parts of the leaves to be darker than towards the center of the plant. To brighten up the center of the leaf, what I ended up doing is I just added a little bit of that light green shade and placed it along the stem. Remember, use a light hand. You can definitely overpower your painting with too much of a light color. And then after that, what I ended up doing is I just went into that darker green shade again, and then using that, I was just refining the details along the edge of each of the leaves. From there, what I ended up doing was I took that light green shade and I placed that along the center of each of the leaves and then just blended it out. This ended up brightening up the entire painting. So for this time, when I decided to paint the word cilantro, I went and skipped the light blue shade altogether and I went straight into the dark blue shade. Personally, I like this like 10 times better. It is so pretty. It came out very crisp and sharp. The letters are really nice. However, with that said, I do want this to match the dill pot. So I ended up going into the light blue shade and mixing the letters to get it the same look as the word dill had. But on top of that, you guys don't get to see that because my memory card, it ran out of space and I didn't catch that on film. So I saw it. Now for the basil, I started off with that medium green shade and painted it along the stem. From there, I went onto the leaves and also painted them with that light green shade to act as the base. I chose to paint the basil with that medium green shade because if you look at a basil plant, it is a very bright green, and I feel like this green in particular complements that color very well. Once I finished painting all of the drawing with that medium green shade, I moved on to the dark green shade. I ended up using my thin tip paintbrush in the dark green shade to fill in all the detail that was in the drawing. This included painting a line down the middle of the leaf, as well as creating little branches from that line to give the leaf more of its structure. Then I took a little bit of the black and mixed it in with the dark green and used this to deepen up some of that detail. I also took that same mixture and used it to paint along the edges of the leaves just to create more shadow. Then to bring some of the highlight back into the painting, I took that medium green shade and placed it a little bit on the top part of some of the leaves. Woohoo! We're finally on the home stretch. We're moving on to the last painting piece. We're painting the word basil. For this pot, I decided the easiest way to make it mimic the same coloring that the word dill had was to just follow the same steps I did with dill. So I started off first with painting it with that light blue shade. Now I'm moving on to that darker blue shade and painting that along the top of all the letters of the word basil. While this wasn't my favorite coloring of the letters, I do have to say continuity was way more important to me. So all in all, they turned out looking the same. They came out looking pretty cute. So what more can I ask for? Now we're moving on to the final step, in my opinion, probably the most important, which is actually planting the plants. You can have these cute pots just chilling around your house, but you know, people are going to look at you strange if you don't have anything inside of them. I do think over time that these pots might become a little too small for your plants. They're a little bit on the wee side. But over time, you can probably just repot them into something else. But for the beginning stages of their life, while they're growing up in their infancy, these pots will suit them just fine. I know on the back of each of the packs of seeds, it'll tell you more about like how deep you should plant them and how much sunlight you should give them and how many seeds you should use. I'm not gonna lie, I did not follow any instructions. I was just like, this little bit of seeds? Yeah, this feels about right. So the moral of the story is maybe you don't need to follow exactly everything I do right here. But most importantly, make sure to water your plants so they can grow. So guys, what do you think? I got my 3 little guys back here. I think they came out super cute, and it's a really easy project. And then the nice thing is like you have fresh herbs. Like that's what I'm most excited for, is when these little puppies grow up and they become big herbs and they become like usable. So if you want to see their little journey, I do have an Instagram. Check me out at AweFullCreations on Insta, and you can see their progress, see how they're doing. If you guys make any little planners like that and you paint anything similar, tag me, let me see them. I would love to. And if anything, I'll see you guys later. Bye! Yeah, it's cute. I like it. You should like it too.